Welcome to Screenshots. Juan and I are back from Chicago, and we've got a great show today. Juan, why don't you talk a little bit about what's going on?
Well, we're going to have Gerri Viant is coming for an interview.
The legendary Gerri Viant.
The legendary Gerri Viant coming for an interview with you. She's also going to give us a tip on how to play the overheads. And then we're going to do a quick recap, or I don't know if a quick or a not so quick recap of the women's and the men's row of the Charities.
Okay, terrific. We'll be right back with all that.
Here at the Westchester Country Club with Gerri Viant, 13-time national champion, and she's going to give us a great tip about how to play the overheads.
Great, yeah. Today's tip is going to be we call it the third panel slam. And this shot is a shot that creates movement. So it's the first overhead that's going to create space in a sequence of shots. Okay, so this shot can be used especially when on the left side of the net I'm hitting the overhead and I receive a short lob from the player in front of me. So I'm going to be changing my grip from a continental grip more to an eastern grip, and I've got to severely turn my shoulders because I'm aiming straight into that third panel. So it's a grip change, and I'm hitting the back of the ball hard and snapping my wrist. It's a very exciting shot to have because I get to hit in a hard overhead. One more, turn. Okay. So the reason we call it the third panel slam is this is the third panel on the court. And this is where you're aiming to hit that first overhead hard halfway up here, so that you get the angle, which is different from most overheads that you're hitting deeper in the service box that's going to go deeper in the screen. You actually want this ball to come out on a severe angle, which is going to pull that player out of their home base. So the first overhead, the third panel slam, will create this kind of opening. And now it pulls me out into the middle of the court. My next shot will be a lob, and here's where the sequence gets started. One's going to hit where that towel is, a lot of pressure, and it becomes a backside. So now I am chasing the ball. Lob it up, and the third part of the sequence, back to that, and now the ball gets hit behind me. So it's those combinations of those three hits that all get started with the third panel slam. Okay, so what's important is that both players at net understand the sequence of shots. So I was chasing that ball from the middle up the side screen, and I lobbed those balls cross court. But if I had lobbed the ball straight, the net player can still hit back to that same spot because he's hitting it behind me and I'm still chasing. As opposed to if I lob straight and they snapped it cross court, they've now lost the opportunity to keep me chasing.
Well, thanks, Gerri, for the tip. Really great tip. Anything else you want to share with the viewers?
Yeah, I think that when you're playing paddle, you're playing together as a team. And seeing the opportunities, creating the opportunities together, and hitting that sequence of shots, being on the same page is what makes a great team.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So we're here with Mark, and we're going to discuss about the Charities. And first, he's going to give us a quick recap about the women's row.
Well, I was not around for the women's matches before the semifinals. I was busy watching Juan win the 90s as I watched him hit lots of brilliant shots, and I got to shake hands at the end. Juan, I thought you looked particularly good in the picture after the match the tournament director took.
Thank you very much, yeah.
So women's semis were short and sweet. Anna and Vicky beat Doughton and Nuslock 1 in love, and there was just no adjustment at all from Doughton. Nuslock was disappointing. They played them 3 sets last year in Pittsburgh. Chelsea's a really talented player, and I was just disappointed that Mary, being as an experienced player as she is, didn't change things up. So that match was 1-love. The other match was I don't want to say an upset, but it was a rematch from the semifinals, the quarterfinals in Pittsburgh. Roxy Anika and Martina Andrikova versus Cynthia Dardis and Amy Shea. Cynthia Dardis and Amy were the second seeds, and Roxy and Martina just took it 2-1. You would have been very proud of them. They had a lot of hard overheads at Cynthia and at Amy, exploited their lack of foot speed, and match was 4-love. Last point was a hard overhead, bounced off of Cynthia out of the court. So 2 semis, I don't think either match went past 45 minutes.
I think that actually, I told Roxy and Martina that the strategy was to try to make Cynthia move, and I think they did that, but I also think that Martina played much better this tournament. I didn't get to watch that much, but I watched a little bit of the finals, and actually...
Well, you're spot on. You could see Martina growing as play progressed. So final starts, I remember I was talking to Roxy before the match. They'd gotten killed 2 weeks ago at the Lake Invitational Indian Trail, and we talked a little bit about keeping Vicky honest. Because in the semis, Vicky was all over the middle of the court. She's very creative with the forehand in the middle of the court. It opens up a lot of court. And for me, I know the hardest ball for me to defend against is when a player has the forehand in the middle of the court. So Roxy and Martina's strategy going into the finals hit a lot of hard overheads on Vicky's side wire and not back away from her. And to me, the comparison is a little bit like the way you've seen guys play Federer for years, where everyone was scared to death of his forehand, so he stands halfway between the center hash and the alley, hitting nothing but forehands. Because if you're going to play his backhand, you can't find it. Nadal comes along, Nadal exploits the forehand, goes after the Federer forehand, opens up the backhand. So obviously not the same level, different sport, but they go right after Vicky, and they're hitting a lot of hard overheads at Vicky. And I think it was surprising to Vicky, because Vicky's gotten used to everybody directing the ball elsewhere, and it's uncomfortable when somebody starts attacking you. So which part of the match did you see?
Well, I watched the first few games, and actually I think that Roxy and Martina were down 3-love.
In the blink of an eye.
And then I went on the court for my round of 16. That was a 3.5-hour match. So, but I then watched a little bit online, and I saw that they started doing what you're saying now, and that was great. And also, I happened to see that Vicky wasn't feeling well or something.
Yeah, Vicky apparently was nauseous and almost threw up between the second and third
could
set.
Could this be like big news that Javi and Vicky are going to be parents?
Could be big news. We'll have to check in with Javi.
I'm going to call him later.
Is Javi able to do that?
I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll have to double check on that. So the second set, Anna and Vicky jump out to a 4-love lead. And the set plays out exactly the same way the first set was. They come right back to 4-all. They have some deuce at 4-all. And I think they blinked a little bit at that point. I haven't spoken to Roxy about it, but I just have to wonder a little bit whether they were, whether with the finish line in sight, they got a little nervous.
Well, Roxy was just texting me, asking me if I want to play with her in the Connecticut State mix, and I'm going to text her back now and ask her what happened. And I haven't talked to her since.
They played really well. It was a great performance. I think it's terrific for women's paddle. I mean, first off, it was a great match. It was a fun match to watch. Lots of play, lots of hard hit balls through, lots of exchanges of the net. And it's great to see someone competing with Anna and Vicky, because you've said before you think that Roxy and Martina are going to be the team, and it really looks now like they're stepping up and doing that.
Okay, great.
So the next tournament, I guess, for the women is Long Island.
Yes.
And then hopefully we'll get to see a rematch of those two teams, because that was a lot of fun to watch. And I also want to discuss the fact that all the women's quarterfinalists were standing watching the finals, which was fun to see.
That's really great. All right. That's it for the women's draw.
So that covers the women.
Okay, so now let's discuss a little bit the men's draw.
Okay, so starting in the round of 32, let's talk about, there were two matches, one which we covered and one which you wanted to cover, and I said we shouldn't cover it. So Juan is almost always right. So the two matches were the Bostrom-Bredberg Berka Barnes match, which we didn't cover and we should have, and then the Goodspeed Bacher Caldwell Cordish match.
Yes.
So start me off with the Swedes versus the Chicago boys.
Well, I was playing on the court right next to them, and I watched until 4-1 of the first set that Peter Berka and Jeroni Barnes were up 4-1. They were up 3-love, then Martin and Sebastian managed to win one game, and then they lost the next one. But I think that in those 5 games, Peter Burka drove one ball that he actually hit a backhand long, but that was it. And they were playing super steady.
What 16 you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about Johan.
The marquee matchup.
Yeah, Johan Durant and Mark
the one
Parsons.
with 8 national championships on the court, none of them belonging to Romania.
Okay, yeah, that you said that. So Johan and Mark played against Brian Uline, Rod Warman's favorite player, and Alex Vanchila.
I don't think players necessarily, just favorite. So I saw the match. First 4 games go in about 5 minutes. And Mark and Johan just go out there and then just punch them in the face. They don't even allow them to play. They're just thunderbolts everywhere. It's 4-love. Ended up the set 6-2. Second set, Brian starts to do some things, has a little more success with his overhead. They're able to slow play down a little bit. But from 4-all, I don't know that Alex and Brian won a point. The next really good 16 was the Goodspeed Bacher Barnes Burka match, which was a good 16 on paper, maybe not so good to watch, which fortunately I didn't see. Apparently it was 3.5 hours, and the backhand that you referenced that Peter Burka missed in the 32s, he didn't hit any of those in the 16s. Flip told me it was awful. At times he felt like walking off the court. But interestingly enough, at one point in the match, I think it was, Flip thought it was 4-5 in the third, and they lose the game, and Flip fires the ball into the trees and sticks his hand out. And Rob Bacher says, Flip, the match isn't over. So there's a delay, they get a new ball, momentum shifts, Goodspeed and Bacher win 6-4 in the third.
That's crazy.
Only Flip Goodspeed.
Only Flip.
So you'd assume after a 3.5 hour round of 16, Flip's 53 years old, he can't have anything left for the quarters against Lubao DeRose, right? Wrong. They beat Lubao DeRose 6-love. But back to the 16. So last 16 of the night, which in my opinion was probably the premier match of the tournament, involved you.
No, it wasn't the premier match of the tournament.
Well, the end of the third set was terrific. I know that you guys struggled early on. I sat and I watched from mid-second set. And when I say mid-second set, I was there for about 30 seconds of the second set, which was about midway through, since the second set took about 60 seconds.
Yeah.
But from halfway through the third set on, the quality of play was tremendous, I thought.
Yeah, I think it was strategy-wise was well played. I don't think Max and I played well that much.
And you had beaten him badly at the Paddle Play Open in September.
I mean, that match, what happened is in that match we did play great. In this one we didn't play well, so it was like a big gap between the level that we played at the Paddle Player Open and this match. I think that they actually played a lot better.
George played exceptionally well. He had a number of big forehands I saw from the middle of the court.
Yeah, Marco hit some backhands off the wires that at crucial points that.
Including 3-2 in the breaker. He had an unbelievable backhand for a winner.
So started hitting all the overheads to George sidewire, and that kind of worked because I started closing and making some volleys that I was having a hard time before that. So we went to 2-2, then they went up 4-2, then we went back to 4-0. They were up 5-4 serving for the match.
Did they serve for the match at 5-4? Yeah, I guess they did. You know, it was interesting watching the match.
No, actually, no, I served.
Yeah, you served at 4-5. It was interesting watching the match because at no single moment in time, and you and I discussed this at dinner, at no single moment in time before you stepped up to serve at 6-4 in the breaker did I think you guys were going to win.
Yeah.
So you hold at 4-5, then there's a long game at 5-all, which they hold. Then Max serves
match
a
point
gutty
down.
game at 5-6.
So we're up 15-love, then 30-15, but then they win the next point 30-0. At 30-0, we play a great point, and we had a 6-ball volley exchange with Marco.
That was tremendous.
That Marco ended hitting the ball at my feet, and he wins the point.
Well, Marco's got some just tremendous hands.
And then, so Max is serving 30-40 match point for them. They hit a good return. They actually happened to hit behind me that I was actually poaching, and Max hits a ball off the back wire low at George's feet. They pop it up, and then Max closes in and hits George with a volley. So we go back to deuce, and we actually held. That was the only match point they had. Then we started the breaker. We're 4-2 down.
Before we leave that game, I got to say, you know, I don't think much of Max as a player or a person, obviously, but that was really impressive. That 5-6 game where we really stepped up.
Yeah.
There are moments in time when you really get to see into somebody's heart and see their competitive instincts. And I was very impressed with the game Max played there.
No, Max, I mean, at match point, he actually happened to drive. I think he drove 3 balls in that game, in that point that I'm like, no, please don't drive, please don't drive. And he actually drove and make him, and then he ends closing and making the shot. I was like, wow. So then we're down in the breaker
Well, interestingly,
3-2.
at 3-2, there was a disputed call. George calls the ball long on the baseline. You and Max both say, hey, that ball was good. And Marco steps in and says, yeah, the ball was good. Let's play
we
on that.
replay the point.
Which
They win the
was
point.
great, because that's
Yes.
a big moment in time.
Very big.
All respect to Marco for
They
doing that.
win the point.
Right, to go 4-2. They won the point on a spectacular Marco backhand winner.
Yes.
And at this point in the play, there were a number of winners being hit.
Yes.
The last 4 or 5 games of the tiebreaker were played at an exceptional level.
Yeah. So at 2-4, we play the next point. I actually happened to hit a
Was
backhand.
that the point you hit the cross-court topspin backhand winner off the side back ball in the
Yeah.
opposite alley?
Which I shouldn't have.
Will you be
but-
teaching that to your ladies' C
think
team this
so.
week?
I don't think so. I don't think so. So then we play a couple of solid points, and like you said, I mean, the only time I felt we were gonna win that match was when I served 6-4 in the breaker, and we play. I think they missed a shot in the net, but that was a good match. It was 3 hours and 20 minutes, and that took a big toll on me. I was pretty tired after that.
Well, to me, it was a classic paddle match. In all athletic events, it's easy to win when you're playing well. But in a situation where you're not playing well, you guys are behind constantly, you're always fighting uphill as you were in the second and the third sets, to stay in there, to maintain that mental focus, not to go away, is really hard. Because at times it's easy to say, you know, I played 4 matches yesterday, I carried Fischl to victory, I've had enough. But you didn't, you hung in there and you won. So that brought you guys to the quarters. So let's talk about the quarterfinal matchups. 3 of the 4 quarterfinal matchups were pretty non-competitive. So Broderick Gambino put a beating on Lefevre and Casamano. Flip Goodspeed at the age of 53 or 63 or 73, whatever it is, comes back from his 3.5-hour match and somehow beats Lou Bardero's 7-6, 6-love. A match, incidentally, which is going to elevate them to 3 in the country after Sound Shore. Oh, incidentally, congratulations on getting to 3 in the country with Alex Benchila. That's
Yeah.
very exciting.
Yes.
Okay, so then I have the pleasure of watching Durant Parsons versus McKnight Rose. And you could kind of see Durant Parsons figure some stuff out as the match went along. It was 5-1. First set, I guess Johan was serving 4-5, and then they won 9 of the last 10 games, if my math serves me. And they just started to look
Now,
really
what's up with
comfortable.
that little thing that they
The
were
eye black.
using? Yes.
That was Mark Parsons' idea. And, you know, Johan feels like he's having problems seeing the ball at night. And Mark said, look, the baseball players, the football players wear it to reduce glare. So let's try it. But then Johan says to Mark, I'm only wearing it if you wear it.
Oh.
So Mark had to wear it too. And I guess if Johan plays like he did in that match, Mark will be wearing it in his clinics too, if that helps.
That's good. Yeah, I'm gonna share that with the Mannersin ladies when I see them next time.
So final, quarterfinal, and the only 3-set match in the quarter semis and finals of the guys was you guys versus Cochrane Estes.
Yeah.
So match comes out. Max looked a little tight to me early. Didn't play well the first few games, and Max struggled with his forehands all weekend.
Yeah.
Never really looked comfortable with the forehand. You go down a break early. Cochrane Estes both served exceptionally well the first set. You guys got so few swings. Match starts to swing early second set. How did you see that all unfolding?
Well, first of all, I have to say, I mean, we didn't lose the first set because of Max. We lost the first set because of combination of things. They played great. They played very steady, and they made the right shots. Max had issues with his forehand, but I also felt I was lightheaded. I was about to pass out on the court. I really had no
your arm
energy
was
left.
bothering you too.
My arm was starting to bother me then, but I had no energy left. I mean, I was really tired from the previous match, and that was my 8th match in 2 days. And they came out playing great, and it was, for me, was an uphill battle the entire match, at least for the first 10 games. So when the set finished, I sat down for a little bit, and I don't know what happened. I think I caught a second air, and Max started swinging away, and he started making his shots. They started making some mistakes.
You jumped out to a break, promptly gave
Yeah.
it back, and then Max held it 3-all.
Yeah, he played a great game, and then we broke at 4-3. We win 6-3, and then the last set, I think it was a fast set. They started pressing.
It kind of went away a little bit.
They started pressing, but I mean, I think we started playing much better. I mean, we made a lot of shots that we weren't making at the beginning, and that was made the difference.
Well, both you guys really stepped up your level. You played a couple of terrific games at 3-4 in the second set, with I guess it was Mike Cochran serving 3-4 in the second set, and you won both games, and you really hit some tremendous shots, especially closing out that break.
Well,
at
I think the
3-4.
point that changed the entire dynamics of that match was one point at 3-4, actually break point for us. Mike is serving to me. I make the return, and I then get a kind of softball in the middle of the court. I dink it to Scott's feet, and Scott managed to volley behind me, and Max gets a ball that
was a
it
tremendous
was
get.
incredible. And that kind of surprised them. We play a few more shots, and then they ended missing a shot, and we broke. So then I served 5-3 for the second set. But I think that point, that get actually, not the point, the get from Max was probably a momentum changer.
So third set went fast. You guys won at 6-1. First game was a long, do-sad game with Scott Estes serving. I remember at one point you missed a block return on break point, and your paddle hit the ground, and your arms hit your sides, and
I don't
you
know.
looked very happy at that
I
point.
don't know how my paddle hit the ground. That never happens.
Never happens. So you guys win that match 6-1. So that brings us on to Saturday. That was your, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that was your 5th straight Chicago Charity semifinal.
No.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a lot of partners, too. 3 different partners? 4
Yes.
different partners? Okay. Congratulations on that mini accomplishment. So semis on Saturday.
Sunday.
We have on Sunday, Sundays and Sunday, we have you guys versus Durant Parsons, and we have a rematch from last year's semifinals. Interestingly enough, we had 7 of the 8 players from the national semifinals last year playing the Chicago Charities semifinals this year. All we're missing is your ex-partner.
Alex. And so a French replaced Romanian.
They're both European. They're pretty much the same anyway.
Yes.
They're very similar people. So first match is the Bacher Goodspeed Broderick Gambino match. 3-3. Broderick Gambino have control pretty much throughout. Rob made a couple of mistakes. Match could have gone either way, but Broderick Gambino seemed to be in control throughout. Did you watch much of that match while you were playing, or you were playing your match?
No, I was playing my match.
Okay.
Or I thought I was.
Okay, so you guys come out, you have a game plan. You want to talk to me a little bit what your game plan was against those guys, or we can't reveal that?
I can't reveal that.
Okay.
Even though it didn't work, I think eventually it will work. I don't want to use anything an excuse that I was injured or I was tired or anything like that. But I think that could work in the future.
Okay, so the first set, you guys have game point in
Every
the
game.
first. Was it every game you had? Yeah, just
Pretty
had so
much.
many opportunities. And kudos to them. I know on one of the break points early, Mark hit a ridiculous rolling topspin backhand, the exact type of shot we say doesn't exist in platform tennis. Mark hit.
Well, it doesn't hit. It doesn't exist, actually. He hit it. He created that, I think, this weekend.
Yeah, you guys had break point. You were at the net. Mark had a short backhand. You're playing your thirds of the court as you're supposed to. And Mark hits a little soft, loopy ball that I swear you need strings to hit.
Well, after the match, I said, Mark, that shot that you hit was crazy. And he goes, yes, I know. So even he thought it was crazy. And what he said to me is that because we volleyed towards Mark, so we shifted right to cover those 2/3. And from the corner, his words were, I saw you move to cover the middle. And I said, oh, I have that. And I tried it. And I made it. I couldn't believe it. So even coming from his mouth, he said, he couldn't believe he made it. That was an incredible shot.
Yeah, that was kind of typical of the match. They just, at the end of the day, they played the big points better than you guys
They
played the big match.
that was
and they
the big
played the big
difference.
points exceptionally well.
Yes, they played great. I think we actually played okay too. And I think actually what my wrist was hurting, that actually helped.
Slowed you down a little bit?
Slowed me down a little more, which it helps when you play them because Johan likes to play fast. So I might consider hitting myself in the arm next time I played against
Well,
them.
if you need any help, we could do like a viewer poll.
Okay.
And see if anybody wants to step up. We'll have to like award something for somebody who
Okay.
wants to step up and hit you in the arm a couple
Okay,
of times. I know
good.
several people
I know.
that will volunteer.
I know.
It was interesting watching that match. I was really struck during that match that if Johan plays at that level, those guys are going to be hard to beat. Because Mark tends to play at the same level all the time. He makes very few mistakes, and they've developed a great trust and feel on the court. So Mark's happy staying back, letting Johan hit the overheads. If the ball goes through, so be it. And there were a number of points, a couple in your match, but a number of points in the quarters where there were 3 players in the backcourt, and Johan was at the net looking to pick a ball off. Okay, so the finals against Broderick Gambino, a rematch of last year's national final, and I was sitting with Steve DeRose and John Lubau. And we're starting to place bets in the match. So the first bet that anybody said was over or under a number of games, Broderick Gambino win. So initial conversation was 7, 6. Wasn't until we got to 5 we had a taker. So obviously nobody really thought going into that match that Broderick Gambino had much of a chance to win, and that's the way it turned out.
Well, I think actually Berka and the Workman online picked Broderick and Gambino.
Okay, so nobody outside of people from Chicago thought that Broderick Gambino had any chance to win. The match was an exhibition. I mean, it was 1 and 2. You never felt like Mark and Johan got out of third gear. They were just having a lot of fun. I mean, they had a bunch of crazy points. They were hitting multiple drop shots. Mark hit 6 or 7 drop shots in the match. Have you ever seen Mark hit a drop shot? Yeah.
It was for sure a topspin drop shot.
He hit 2 or 3 winning drop shots.
Wow.
One point ended with Chris and Drew over against the left side wire together, having both gone for a ball, and the rest of the court was wide open.
So Mark, in the end, is a little talented.
Talented.
Okay.
So they win that match 1 and 2, and the last couple weeks there's been a lot of talk about Broderick Palmer being the new guys on the street, and I think Mark and Johan played a statement match and wanted to send a message that they're the team to beat.
Well, I mean, I would like to see that match happen, Broderick Palmer, but I would like Broderick Palmer. Broderick Palmer, Durant, Parsons in the semifinals of nationals. So then I come sneaking in on the other half. But I would like to see that because everybody's talking about them, and no questions. They're the 2 teams so far of the season. I mean, actually, Drew can play with anybody and make it far into the draw. I mean, he's been playing great.
Well, Drew's obviously had a remarkable run. I think if Drew's going to beat Durant Parsons, regardless of who it's with, he's got to have more offense. He's got to hit the ball more. I think that Drew has gotten a little bit passive in his game, and he's got to be more aggressive. Because if you're going to beat Johan, you're beating Johan with pace and placement. And I think.
But at the same time, I think that Johan is gonna could hurt Jared, but I don't think it's gonna hurt him as much as he hurts Chris too easily.
Well, Jared moves much better than Chris. Chris may have more offense than Jared.
Yes.
But he doesn't move as well as Jared does. And the combination of overheads, as I talked earlier with Gerri, with the hard driving overhead, the spinning overhead, and the drop shot has made the court very big. And unless you're exceptionally quick, you can't play against those guys with any success.
Yeah. Well, let's hope for a match. I would love to see that. I hope it doesn't happen in the final of Soundshore because I'm gonna try to get there. But I want to see them play against each other. That's something that I'm looking forward to.
Okay, well, maybe next Sunday. Hopefully you'll be playing, but if you're not playing, we'll get to see them next Sunday. Any other thoughts on the men's wrap?
No, I think that it was a great tournament overall. We want to thank everybody in Chicago.
Did you enjoy the 90s or the Open more?
I enjoyed both draws. It was fun.
But the 90s trophy is going to be displayed prominently in your mantelpiece?
Of course.
I wish I'd gotten one.
Okay. I did get one, you didn't?
Okay, well, I didn't deserve one because you did all the work.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a wrap on the men's draw.